Hey everybody, I'm your host, Chris Burgos, and this is NDI Central Live. Today I'm here with the makers of Chameleon, BannisterLake, and with me I have Vern. Vern, how are you doing today? And let's have a chat about some of the stuff you guys have going on.
Great. Yeah, thanks. It's a pleasure being with you today.
Vern, this is the first time we've ever spoken, and I wanted you to give to the people at home sort of an understanding what is Bannister Lake and sort of tell us about your history and some of the things you guys have been involved with.
Sure. So Bannister Lake is a Canadian software developer. We're based in Cambridge, Ontario, which is about an hour and a half west of the city of Toronto. And we've been in business since 1994. And we specialize in creating that special link between data and graphics. So we're very active in the broadcast world and have quite a long history of working on mission critical broadcast projects where there's data and graphics involved. So this might be broadcast news, elections, sports, financial data. Anytime you see data on screen, and it could be live or static data in a newsy kind of environment, we're often the software working behind the scenes in those kinds of production environments.
Yeah, that's really important when we think about how these graphics get fed. It is essential that we do something that sort of translates all this data, and we think about especially when we talk about things like NDI and everything's IP, it's all data, but something has to talk in between these things. These systems don't just magically speak to each other out of the gate.
Right.
Everything has to be implemented. So it's awesome to know that Bannister Lake has sort of been leading the charge, and the fact that you guys are a Canadian developer, that's also awesome. Like one of the big things we've been focusing on with our NDI Central Live show is talking to developers who are all around the globe. It's not just us in the United States. It's sort of widespread.
Right. Great.
With your sort of focus, is there any one piece of like contemporary tech? I mean, obviously we're going to talk about NDI, but what has been sort of one of the cool things you guys have been focused on from like your clientele perspective that have just been like really cool getting like data in for them?
Right. Well, we really pride ourselves on being able to read virtually any kind of data set. So whether it's an XML or an RSS data feed from a news organization, or financial data from the stock market, or weather content, or even data that might come from the local school principal, who's announcing that the school is closed because of bad weather, that sort of thing. We really pride ourselves on being able to read all kinds of data, and all of that gets ingested into Chameleon. And then the user can actually customize those data feeds. So they can actually blend those feeds together to create their own feed,
Okay.
or they can actually have multiple feeds that can take advantage of automation, and they can be completely scheduled as well. So it's a very, very powerful data content management system that really ups the game when it comes to editorial content, especially for news and information type programs.
That's really cool. As I said, it's really important. I think when you talk about automation as well, one of the things that we've done with NDI is try to make this tool as easy to implement as possible. And I really wanted to sort of ask, you guys are sort of new to the NDI scene. Why did you guys choose to implement NDI?
Well, it became really obvious to us that the NDI market is really exploding, and that there are incredible opportunities for NDI producers to really up their game. And we think that live data and how that live data can populate a graphic can really play an important role in that. The idea that NDI producers can convey this fast moving information content to their viewers really appeals to us. And we really wanted to explore that space. We really feel that the Chameleon product really provides a real advantage to those producers. And the idea of integrating graphics especially with live data, just creates all kinds of great editorial and storytelling possibilities for NDI producers.
I always look at this and I sort of look at the current emerging markets that we see. And one of the big ones we see is esports and gaming. And I know
Right.
personally that there's a huge developing market currently in Toronto where they are building up facilities to support this. Um, if you guys haven't been looking into it, I highly recommend it because it is an extremely data-driven environment. There's so much going
Right.
on, and oftentimes something what a tool like what you guys create, the game designers aren't privy to letting the game data go. There's some sort of they want to keep game integrity intact, so someone always
Right.
has to be interpreting that data and presenting it. So
Yeah.
if you guys have been looking at that, there's all kinds of other new emerging markets too. When we talk about sports, part of the cool thing that NDI has enabled is that it brings the costs down tremendously for lots of organizations. And that means that I can cover a wide variety of sports. So things like maybe like women's hockey in Canada, which I know is gaining some traction. These are now
Absolutely.
opportunities, whereas before they weren't really available. Are you guys seeing that?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, esports is especially exciting for us. And for the last year and a half or so, we've been incredibly active on the international esports circuit. We actually have folks that travel around the world going to some of the biggest esports events on the planet. And what they're doing is they're pulling data from all kinds of different sources, and they're creating things like L bars or lower thirds that appear on video on the output of either digital signage at the event or that gets incorporated into the stream on things like Twitch or YouTube or that sort of thing. And this adds a whole new level of storytelling and excitement to the video game experience. So imagine you're watching a tournament of Madden or FIFA or Gran Turismo, some of the really big popular video game tournaments, and you're watching that on a screen in the stadium or in the venue, and there's an L bar that wraps around the video game content, and on that L bar you're seeing player standings, you're seeing schedule of events, you're seeing promotional messages, all kinds of different content that coming at you. And this just enhances the whole experience and provides an opportunity for the game producers of those events to actually add some monetization potential to those as well. So, from a production point of view, because we can pull data from all these really diverse sources, and we're not quite there yet, but soon we will be being able to pull data right out of the game itself. So there's all kinds of stats involved with how the game is being played and how the players are performing. This adds a whole new level of excitement to video games, and we're really excited about that as well.
I think you guys are going to be really pleasantly surprised. NDI for the wider community, beyond just the traditional production community, has actually grown and reached out to different places. So I wouldn't be surprised if you start talking with game developers and they're like, and you guys can say, hey, we work with this cool protocol, it's called NDI, and they'll say, oh, we also leverage NDI. And so that ease of delivering that data may be possible. We're talking about things that are very contemporary, and one of the big reasons I always love the technology is that it's pushing the boundaries in a lot of ways. Things that you talked about with, the way this whole presentation can be. A gigantic tournament can take place over 3 days, and you really want to be able to keep tabs on all that. And it can be a behemoth if you don't have good representation of the data in a graphical sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I was just going to say, I always return back to sort of the storytelling, the production side, the editorial side, that, using live data, we can tell just a more nuanced, complex story of what's going on. And I think that just has a lot of vitality and a lot of excitement, to those events. Another place where we're becoming very active is in the world of digital signage. And we touched on that, in the world of esports. But, we've also done some very mission critical, high profile digital signage projects where, again, using Chameleon, using automation and bringing in all kinds of complex data feeds and then laying them out on the screen in a very interesting way. And this is another interesting opportunity, I think, for NDI folks to get involved with as well. And we're really trying to, I guess our message is really, looking beyond broadcast, where, things like esports, things like digital signage, we think there's all kinds of opportunities to take advantage of live data and automation and the ability to customize that data to tell really, really compelling stories.
This is exactly where I wanted to sort of take this conversation, which is like, we're talking about these things that are today. For a lot of people, this is kind of the future. They want to get there, but
right.
with stuff like what you guys are doing at Bannister Lake and NDI involvement, you can make this stuff more of a reality today and get back to that storytelling. I have a past in production, and one of the things you tend to see is that things can get a little robotic if people are bogged down. But if you can make things easy and free flowing and just say, hey, this is working, right, then you can get to that point where you're telling a story. And so the last thing I want to sort of ask you about is, what do you guys see as the future for Bannister Lake?
Yeah, well, I think the future of data is huge. And we think that there's all kinds of opportunities to take advantage of live data, be it in using financial data, sports data, news, as well as some of the really exciting up and coming things like sports wagering. There's more and more sports wagering going on across the United States, and all of that requires data and the visualization of that data in a really timely and relevant way. And that's our specialty. That's what we're experts in. And so we really want to explore those kinds of emerging data markets and be that special bridge between that data and beautiful graphics that appear on air or in a digital signage system.
Yeah, that I agree. We are looking at all these different emerging pieces. Vern, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. Are you going to be at NAB this year?
Yes, I will.
Yep. Okay, so I look forward to seeing you out in Las Vegas, sir. Thanks for the time. And I really look forward to seeing what Bannister Lake is going to do as this emerging NDI community continues to grow and pursue.
Great, thank you. Really enjoyed it.